So it's 10 o'clock, so let's call the meeting to order. So first item of business is to welcome our new members. Public members, Peter Charles and Natalie Mazanares. Are they online?
Here.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. And then our new inspector committee member, or our new inspector member, Greg House.
Hello.
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 And we can do a roll call too, just to see if anyone else is on, but we can't tell by the camera.
Okay, I don't have everybody's name. Do you?
Amber can do that.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Amber, will you do roll call, please?
Sure, I can do that. Mike Morgan, Stephanie, Peter, I believe you just said you were present, Randy,
Here.
Greg,
Here.
Natalie, present,
Here.
Mike Marlowe,
Here.
Rondalyn,
Here.
Cole,
Here.
and I'm not sure if I saw Commissioner Lerner present yet as our liaison.
See her yet. Okay.
Okay. And discussion and possible action to excuse committee members' absences. Mike Morgan is not here today due to a family emergency.
So you can, would like to make a motion to excuse his absence, you can. You don't have to, but you can.
Would anybody like to make a motion to
Sure.
excuse his absence?
I'll make a motion that we excuse Mike Morgan for this meeting.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank y'all. He did text me this morning and said that he really did want to be here or at least try to get in online, but he did have a family emergency that he needed to attend to. So I have talked to him about that today. All right, next election of officers, we need to name our presiding officer, our assistant presiding officer, and our secretary for this year. Any nominations for chair?
I'm going to nominate you, Stephanie.
I'll second it.
Anybody else?
Are you opposed?
All right, so
So
I guess I am chair.
yeah, if there's no other nominations.
If there's no
then-
other nominations. Okay, what about vice chair? Any nominations for vice chair? Randy?
Sure.
You take it?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, I'll nominate Randy.
All right.
I'll second Randy.
Anybody opposed to Randy being vice chair? All right, Randy, that one's yours.
Okay.
All right, and what about secretary?
I'm gonna nominate Cole.
Anybody else?
All right.
Anybody opposed Cole being secretary?
No?
And then Cole, you are secretary. So our officers for 25-26 are myself as chair, Randy is vice chair, and Cole is secretary.
Good.
And then I'm supposed to take over running the meeting
You're
from
taking
here.
The reason why you
Now
sat up
make some
front
good
today
notes for me.
must be the chair.
Right. All right. So we need to do our appointments to the education and the SOP subcommittee. Let's see, last year, the education subcommittee, Mike Morgan was the chair, and then the members were me, Mike Marlowe, and Teresa Benavides, who's one of the public members no longer on the committee. And the SOP subcommittee was Randy was chair, Cole, Rondalyn, and then Ed Muth, who is no longer, one of the public members no longer on the committee. Let's see, we just went around and asked whose preference was last
Yeah,
year, didn't
you
we?
can, yep, you can certainly do that. You can just name people, whatever you want
Okay.
to, your prerogative.
I know Marlo did say that he was interested in being on the SOP subcommittee. And Mike Morgan said he would go wherever. So he said, just put him somewhere and he will gladly take it. So,
That's Mike.
yeah,
I'm fine with staying on the SOP.
okay. Rhonda, Lynn, and Randy, do y'all still want to stay on the SOP committee?
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like since y'all have taken that baby this far with everything I've done,
Yeah. Give us an opportunity to finish what we started.
Yeah.
and then Mike Morgan, he said he doesn't mind staying on education. Greg, would you mind being on education?
Sure.
And then we have the two new public members, Natalie and Peter. Put them on education because that would be 4 and 4.
But you have the right mix on the inspector committee for inspectors in public. See,
Oh, no, well, we got 1 inspector and 3. I mean, 1 public, 3 inspector, and then 2 and 2 on education.
Okay.
But that's gonna, I mean, it's gonna,
You can't really
it
put
can't
it any
be.
different.
yeah. Let's make sure that,
Because I can't be on either.
no, I know. I didn't know who, were you staying on? Cole, were you staying on?
Mhm.
Okay, that was a public member then. Okay.
All right.
I missed that. All right.
What about chairs? Keep Mike as chair as education? Are y'all good with that?
Mhm.
And then,
Keep you as chairperson.
That's fine if you
you
want.
want to stay chair of, anybody opposed to Randy staying chair of SOP? Good with that? Okay, so Education Subcommittee, Mike Morgan, Greg House, Natalie Mazanares, and Peter Charles. And then the SOP Subcommittee, Mike Marlowe, Cole, Rondalyn, and Randy. Is there any opposition to any of that, or are we good with that? Do we need to make a motion on that one? We good?
Yeah.
Okay. And then ratification of the minutes for the.
Oh. I'm so sorry. Our executive director, Chelsea, actually has a conflict, and she's wondering if we could skip ahead to
that
the
okay?
staff reports for executive division. That's
9A.
agenda item
That is
9.
not okay.
If you want to go ahead.
That
and
you
do
do not want to
ratification.
spend this meeting with
Well,
us.
I really do.
No.
I would love to spend the meeting. with you. 'Cause
We have
really
no
most of my
problem with
day is
that at
just like
all.
fielding other things, you know. I'm Chelsea. Welcome to Peter, Natalie, Greg. Greg? Okay, I thought, I don't have like a ton to update, but I did just want to introduce our staff so that the new folks kind of know who the players are on the TREIC side of things. I'm executive director, been in this role for, I don't know, about 6 years now, still very much in a learning phase. Maybe forever. I don't know. Is that just what humanity is? Maybe. I'm not an inspector. I'm a lawyer by trade, but don't hold that against me. Vanessa Burgess is our deputy executive director. I think she's in the other room doing a different meeting. But in this room, I want y'all to know who the players are. Jen Wheeler handles our education. She's the director of education and examination services. Tony Renteria.
When I had trouble with some of my contracts, I would have closed more contracts and there'd be a lot more happy people in the world. So I love that we have somebody dedicated.
That'll move us.
I bet
Okay.
Amber, just a second, we'll mute him. Yep, there you go. Okay. Tony Renteria is in our enforcement division and kind of handles all of the enforcement related to inspectors. Denise Sample is our director of licensing. So any licensing question goes to her. And then we have Brittany Ramirez, who is assistant general counsel, and then Abby Lee, general counsel. And then Kathleen Santos, who is the general counsel for the board and deputy general counsel for TREIC. And is kind of we're wanting her to be our inspector expert on legal things. So you've been doing this for about a year now?
Been about a year?
Maybe
So,
a little
yeah,
bit less.
close to it.
And then on the phone, we have more. We have Jamie Andrews, who does our executive assistant work. We have Amber Hinton, who's kind of the behind the scenes. She's probably the person who just muted the noisy person. We have Summer Mandel, who handles our communications and government relations. Let's see. We have John, one of our attorneys. We have Mike Malloy, who is the director of enforcement. Have I missed anyone?
Carrie Burner.
Carrie, is Carrie in enforcement?
Yeah, he's
also?
on it.
Yeah, and then TR does some of our communications too. So we've got quite a team of folks with you today. But so that's who we all are. We won't take a test on that. As you can imagine, our whole life has been the rollout of the Realm portal.
How's that going?
So we went offline to begin our transition on December 2nd. Then we came back online, I'm putting that in quotes, on December 15th. That rollout did not go as we planned or intended. And so if any of you have had stress or trouble or frustration caused by the Realm portal, I apologize. This is not the way we wanted it to be. I currently sit in 2 meetings a day, at least, with our vendor. One at the beginning of the day and one at the end of the day to basically monitor improvements. And we will not end our transition phase of this until all of those critical pieces are in place. And more every day is in place. We're able to do renewals now. Really, our biggest hang up right now is for applicants. And it really depends on where they were in the process on December 2nd as to what we can do for them today. But my goal is that by the end of next week, for that all to be humming. That might be a little bit naive because we'll get one thing fixed and then we'll get to the next layer and see what happens then, right? But we won't stop until it is, number one, functioning. And then our next layer will be improvements that we need to make sure it's a system that works for us and our license holders in a way that feels like an improvement from what we went to, right? So that's a process. Anyone I've talked to that has gone through a big database rollout kind of nods and like pats the top of my head like, yes, I understand. If you haven't, you've wondered why we haven't just fired everyone and gone back to the old system. And I understand that too, because it's very frustrating. But our path is forward, and I am getting there one step at a time with great expectation. So in the meantime, if you or anyone you encounter is having a frustration that feels unique or needs to be elevated in any way, send them to me. It feels very satisfying to be able to help solve something for someone. While sometimes it's, okay, you're part of the masses that need to wait, but it's amazing to see what we can do for people. So don't hesitate to just send them straight to me. I felt like I had one other thing I wanted to tell you. I can't think of it, but really, if any of you have any feedback or needs on that part, just let me know.
Chelsea, I do have with the Realm portal, I have an apprentice who's going through the application process.
Okay.
She has submitted her application. She has paid her application. We have the receipt for the application.
Okay.
But when she talks to somebody, the TREIC, they say there's no payment associated with your application. But they see your payment, but it's apparently not associated with the application. And it has been really frustrating.
That's something I believe we can solve.
And it took a while to even get us to that point.
Yeah.
But I was bugging Jennifer for a while.
If you send her my way, and we'll at least be able to know what it's going to take to get her broken free. But some of the payment issues, when we've been able to, like when she has a receipt, then we know it. We just need to kind of match them up. But that sounds easier said than done. But I bet. Let me see.
You want her to just email you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, this was the other thing I was going to say. A lot of the frustration we're seeing with people has nothing to do with things not working. It has a lot to do with things not working how they did in the old system, just learning a new way. And some of that is because the words are a little bit weird. Like in order to make a change, you hit a button that says application. Well, I'm not applying for anything. I'm just needing to make a change. Just things like that. So some of those things we might be able to fix. Not today. We need things to like just function first. But other things we just need to help explain, what the process is. So there's a lot of information online. Sierra's been working on videos to say, here's what you need, if you need to do this thing, here's how to do it. And so if people are just generally frustrated, the website, it's TREIC.texas.gov/LMS, I believe, gets you to all of the resources we have available. But yeah, you just send your person to me.
Okay, I'll send her your email and tell her to get on that today.
I was gonna say, I have an update for you, but we can talk offline. If you
Okay.
like, I can give you that update.
You know this one already? Okay. Sounds like she doesn't even need to email me. Denise
Okay,
knows.
sweet.
This is kind of how we do
That
it.
smile better mean it's good.
Pause.
She has a
Even
five-digit
issue's been
number
resolved.
for
There's an open app. It's now pending the.
Background check.
Yes.
Okay, and she's an apprentice, so she should have already done a background, so
Also, our ability to issue exam authorizations is
still
delayed. So-
down.
We're getting the result files.
That's really our biggest, I'll tell you the biggest issues we're having right now. It's integrations. So we have our new system and it integrates with the DPS FBI system. There are 3 issues that we're dealing with on that particular integration. We have solved 2 of them and we're working very hard on the 3rd one, which is basically missing data, plugging in a bunch of data, needs to go plug into certain places so that those 2 systems can talk to each other. I think that's days away, but I don't believe it's weeks away. In fact, one of my things I need to do this morning is to go talk to our IT director and say, okay, this person that's working on this thing, that's his top priority for today, right? To just make sure we're tracking. Once that issue with DPS is solved, then the integration with Pearson View for exam authorizations is also solved because it's a similar data issue. The one fix will break both free. So I think that's a days away, not weeks away. And that is going to be very helpful to a lot of people. Then the next thing we're working on is some performance issues with the system. Some of the automation that we put in place to move people along without us having to move them along, it just automatically works, caused the system to slow considerably, like it was too complicated. These are my words, this is not IT talk. And so they had to turn that automation off, like early into our implementation. And there needs to be a IT backend fix to improve that performance before we can turn it back on. Once we get this DPS issue fixed, that's the next big thing to work on. And once we can turn that automation back on, then the masses kind of trickle. It's not so much a trickle through, but like hopefully the floodgates open. Again, that might be naive because then you wait for kind of the next issue that we haven't been able to see yet. Trying to be kind of eyes open on this, knowing that it's a process. But really I'm like holding out hope that we're really close.
Similar for us, it's just some system glitches, for example, where we were changing the ownership of our CE provider number.
Okay.
And got through, Cole Kojak, by the way, was super helpful, so shout out to Cole. But get all the way through, make payment, I've got an application number, I've actually got my printed receipt. I would go back into Realm and it says resume application. Yeah, so that's kind of the stuff that we're encountering, but.
Have you solved that? Have you gotten on the other
No.
side of that?
No.
Okay, well, I'll help you.
Okay,
Got it.
I know I have an application, I've got an application number.
Now what?
Now we're resuming applications, so.
Okay. Well,
Hopefully
you're
that's just one of your little wording
Yeah, that's-
issues that you're
Mhm.
talking about.
Well, we
I think it might be.
took it all the way through to where we actually pay for the application and complete it, so I don't think it's a wording, maybe in the.
But
You're
back end.
sitting next to the exact right person.
It's a good day.
It's a good day.
Nice to meet you, Greg.
It's nice to meet you.
Anything else?
Anything
Any
else?
questions y'all have for me? I'll kind of be in and out. I'm not totally leaving you. Somebody from our vendor is coming to visit this morning, and I have my list of things of like, what about this? What about this? That's where I'm
Do you have
at.
your big stick to calibrate them?
It's like a figurative big stick. How about that? Good. Okay,
Thank
good to
you,
see y'all.
Chelsea.
Congratulations on being chair. It's like you sit in that spot and then it just happens. No one else has kind of ever sat in that spot.
I was just filling in for Mike Morgan for, 5 minutes.
See how that turned out.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Chelsea. Okay, so let's go back up to number 5, ratification of the minutes of the October meeting. They were posted on the website. Does anybody have any changes or any issues with those?
No.
So we're good with those minutes. All right, Abby and Brittany.
Okay.
On January chore.
Yes, so agenda item 6 is advisory committee training. We're gonna do a little bit of a tag team. I'm talking for a little bit to give Amber enough time to get the PowerPoint presentation up. Before we start, I just wanted to mention one thing. For those committee members that are online, if you wouldn't mind turning your cameras on, that just allows our chair to be able to see you and spot you in case there's any conversations or hands are raised or that sort of thing. Okay. So this is our advisory committee training. We do this every year whenever we have new members. For most of you, even if you're new, I think this won't be entirely new information, but it's a good refresher to go over. So I'm gonna turn it over to Brittany for the first few slides, and then I'll come swing back in at the end.
Okay, so we'll start with TREIC, the agency itself. So TREIC is a state agency that safeguards public interests and protects consumers of real estate services. Through education, licensing, and enforcement, the agency ensures the availability of qualified and ethical service providers, thereby facilitating economic growth and opportunity across the state. Now, what this means in practice is that TREIC plays both a regulatory role and also a trust-building role. By setting clear standards, holding license holders accountable, and really investing in education, the agency helps create confidence in the real estate market, and that confidence is what benefits consumers. The commission itself is made up of 9 members that are appointed by the governor's office. 6 of those are brokers, and they bring the experience to the table. They are experts working in their industry every day. They're usually engaged as licensed brokers for the majority of their occupation for the 5 years preceding their appointment. And then the last 3 members are public members, and they represent the consumer viewpoint. And that way you've got the experts and you've got the consumers, so everybody has a seat at the table. And then the mission of TREIC. At its core, the commission exists to protect consumers. Every policy decision that we make is really guided by that responsibility. We want to ensure that consumers are treated fairly while also fostering an environment that supports economic growth and opportunity across the state. Consumer protection and economic vitality are not competing goals for us. They are really mutually reinforcing. So, advisory committees. As you know, TREIC has advisory committees. TREIC advisory committees consist of stakeholders who meet to address relevant issues in the real estate industry, and these committees make recommendations to the full commission, including recommendations related to rulemaking and other policies like legislative changes. These committees serve as a critical feedback mechanism. They provide informed recommendations so that our actions, our rules, and our policies really reflect real-world experience and industry expertise.
Okay, so obviously this is an advisory committee. We have 3 others. We have the Education Standards Advisory Committee, we have the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee, and then we have the Broker Lawyer Committee. And each has a different role and a different process that they kind of oversee or are responsible for. Whenever we're talking about advisory committees and the roles that they have and the things that they do, it's always important to kind of start with this framework of what can they do. And there's really kind of 3 categories or 3 buckets, if you will, where there's some potential limitations on what you can recommend as an advisory committee member. The first and probably most important is, what authority do we even have to begin with? What has the legislature given to us as a state agency? What bounds can we work within? So anytime that you make a recommendation for rules or policies, one of the first things we're always thinking about, particularly as the lawyers, is, do we have statutory authority to do that? Do we have a rule? That's always kind of the first question we look at. The other areas are the Regulatory Compliance Division of the Governor's Office. That's a relatively new office, but impacts us when we do rulemaking that could impact the market, have an anti-competitive effect. This office reviews rules. Either we bring them rules or they just see them, and then they can decide to open a review of those rules if they have, potential concerns that it might have that impact. So that's always something to kind of have in the forefront of your mind as well. And then last but not least, we've got the governor's letter. It was sent to all occupational licensing agencies in 2019, and it directs those agencies to reduce barriers to entry. So that's kind of the other part of the puzzle when we're thinking about any changes we're making. Does it impact that? Is it creating a barrier to entry? So specifically for the inspector committee, again, an advisory committee is a little bit different than some of our advisory committees in that it was specifically created by statute. So your statute, the inspector statute is chapter 1102 of the Occupations Code. And the legislature has determined that this advisory committee's purpose and role is to recommend rules, fees, rules specifically for licensing, SOPs, ethics. So that's the specific role of the inspector committee. The committee itself, again, all of this is set in statute, but as you just heard Brittany go through, it mirrors in large part the commission's kind of makeup. So you've got 6 members that are engaged in the practice of inspection, those inspector members. And then you have 3 members who are representing the public. They bring that perspective as well. Both are important in the work that you do. One sort of warning, if you will, we always sort of throw out is, be mindful of your role here on this committee. The things that you say, they do have an impact. And so speaking in favor of or against a business, a certain practice can have ramifications. The first is there can be some perceived favoritism. Oh, gosh, this company or this business is doing it great. That starts to, maybe make the member of the public who's watching think, oh gosh, maybe there's not this, this sense of, everyone's kind of on the even playing field when they come to the table here. On the other side of that, if you're saying, gosh, this business is awful, that can also have ramifications. You can have loss of trust by both the consumer and the industry as a whole. So on both sides of that coin, there's certainly, this is probably the least common, but the scariest sounding, legal issues. So, if you're saying something negative about a business in your role here, that can have some legal ramifications as well. So that's just something to be mindful of. The second to last slide here, it's actually a video. And this, I'm going to set this up a little bit and then I'm going to have Amber play it. This is a little excerpt we took from the Sunset Advisory Commission a couple years ago. For those of you that don't know, the Sunset Advisory Commission is essentially a group of individuals who review other state agencies and determine if the reason for that state agency continues to exist. And so it's a process that every agency goes through. And so this is the body that oversees that. And so we had a limited sunset review a couple of years ago. And we were kind of sitting there waiting for our turn. And we heard one of the Sunset Advisory Commission members say this. And we thought, oh gosh, this is helpful. We think it would be helpful for advisory committee members to hear. This was not us. This was a different agency. But it kind of gives you a sense of, we need to be sure that we are in our lane, working within the authority that we have. And we certainly took that message to heart, especially from this. So I'm going to have Amber play this and then we can circle back. Okay. So again, just kind of a restatement of what we've already talked about, but a good reminder. So our last slide here, and then I'll turn it back over to you, is really just sort of questions that you might have. So, why is staff here? What's our role on this committee? We are here to support you. To the extent you have questions about the law, you have questions about processes, we can provide that support. But that's our role, a support role for you. And then you already heard a little bit from Brittany about what happens during these meetings, where do recommendations go. But really, it kind of depends on the recommendation and what needs to happen after that. But let's say you make a recommendation for a rule change. That recommendation starts with this body. It might even start with a subcommittee and then come to this body. And then after that, that goes to the commission for their kind of decision. And they certainly listen and value the recommendations they receive from you as well. So that's all I've got. Any questions about any of that? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Abby and Brittany. General comments from visitors or written comments on non-agenda items. We do have, let me find it here, going back and forth. We do have some written comments on non-agenda items. And then does anybody have anything to say? Shannon, really, your turn over, new leaf.
I go off the agenda.
Okay. Okay. So.
Do we mark this day down in history?
Oh no, meeting's not over yet. Okay, so we did have a couple of submissions. One of them was about reciprocity and that it is a bad idea. I know we've talked about this a few times. Do we have any input on whether we need to continue this discussion?
And since these are non-agenda items, we just sort of, the discussion is limited. You can decide if you want to put it on a future agenda or ask questions, but not really any discussions of these comments.
I think the way we do reciprocity right now, after the big change a couple of years ago, is probably about as good as we're going to get as far as, review the individual state. How does it compare? What do you need to do Texas-wise to get your license?
So then is this something that we want to put on a future agenda?
I don't see that there's any change that really needs to be made at this point.
I mean, I think we're far superior than just about every other state.
We are far superior.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, as long as we're, bouncing the incoming license off of what, say they've already completed the NHIE, do you need to do that again? No. Do you need to do X number of hours of Texas? Do you just need to do the Texas SOP? Whatever. State by state cases, that's how I think licensing and education are handling it now.
I'm unfamiliar on this subject. Is it basically set up to bridge the gap between where you were and what it used to be in Texas?
Yes.
Is that the philosophy of it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds like we're good with not putting that one on.
Yeah. And then the next item, this is one of those that, we get quite often about competency of inspectors and inspections we perform. And I mean, I think this one, this agenda or this letter kind of falls back on the competency thing. I mean.
And this is one you all have discussed or seen before.
Yes.
This particular commenter asked that it be resubmitted. So again, it's just to you. Do you want to add it to a future agenda item or not?
I think we've thoroughly discussed it. I'm fine with not putting it on a future agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we've discussed it here. I know y'all have discussed it in SOP. We've discussed it in education. So, I mean, I don't really think we need to keep keep discussing it.
Yeah, I mean, if the inspector's not, expressing diligence, then a complaint needs to be filed and then be taken up with through the complaint process.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the competency language that we have is right where it needs to be as well. If you can show competency, then.
Okay, those were the only two we had, right, Abby?
Yes, just those two, and then nothing else.
Okay.
Okay.
And then reports from the subcommittee, Mike Morgan's not here, but we have no report. We didn't meet last quarter in the education subcommittee. And then Randy, SOP update?
Yeah, so we went through, we finished reviewing all the sections of the standards of practice, and I believe we'll discuss that in detail as we are on the agenda.
Okay, perfect. And then Chelsea's given the executive committee's division staff report. So let's go to education and examinations.
I'll take that. Good morning, everyone. The education reports begin on page 6 of your materials. I'm not going to go page by page with those, but I'll tell you that the number of applications that we've received and approved up through November of this fiscal year look good. Everything with provider and course applications remains steady and consistent, which tells specifically with inspector courses, which tells us that availability of inspector courses does not anticipate any risks. I'm going to give you a little update on Realm stuff specific to us. With the launch of the Realm portal, we have experienced some delays in course processing. So if you are an education provider and you've submitted those applications, then you are expect to wait a little bit longer for now. And that is basically due to issues that our executive director mentioned, like data conversion, that kind of thing. My team is working diligently with our IT team and the Acela team, who is the vendor of the Realm portal, to resolve these issues, and we are really making good progress. Many of our license holders and education providers are anxious for an update on the posting system. This is where our education providers can post credit directly into a license holder's record in real time in the Realm system, like they have done in our previous system. I am pleased to report that we are going to be in a place where we can test this today. My team will be testing it in a production environment this afternoon with a few providers who have offered to be guinea pigs for us. And I hope that we have a really positive update within the week. And then mentioned earlier, exam authorization files and result files. We are successfully receiving exam result files for those who have been able to test regularly. They run through a batch process daily. We're getting those. We're still working through the issues relating to the exam authorizations getting transmitted through the system to our exam vendor, just like, again, the executive director mentioned earlier, so that newer applicants can begin testing. And I do expect more information and progress this week. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jen?
That's good news.
Okay, licensing.
Good morning. I'm Denise Sample, Director of Licensing, for the record. So thankfully, Amber's working her magic in the background. We've got our reports pulled up. These are going to be our last reports out of our legacy system. So this is data through November of 2025. So that bottom left corner shows initial applications received, and that's the inspector application types. So a little bit ahead of last fiscal year in the same time frame. The next page is easement and right-of-way applications and business entity registration. So we'll move right along to the renewal activity report. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the inspector renewal activity. This is showing fiscal year 2024 compared to fiscal year 2026, because all of our licenses renew on a 2-year cycle. So you'll see them broken down by professional and real estate and apprentice, and with the renewal rate down below each bar graph. The next report shows the total license holders and registrants. And if you focus in on kind of the center of this page, you'll see we ended November with 4,385 inspectors and 3,639 of those active. And then you'll see the grand total of all the license holders, and this is the 13-month comparison. So it goes from November of 2024 to November of 2025. The next page shows a graphical presentation broken down by license type. So you'll see in the top left corner, the yellow is for the inspector totals there. And this is all 3 ranks combined. And the last page of my report is the application processing time. So again, in the center of this graph, you'll see the average number of days. It's a 13-month comparison, average number of days to process an application. And for the benefit of our new committee members, this report excludes any time that it takes the applicant to pass the exam or clear the background check. This is just information this is the average based on how long from when documents are received with an application to a response being provided to that applicant of you're authorized to sit for the exam, or in the case of an apprentice inspector application where there is no exam requirement, it's now we need your certificate of insurance, your license is ready to be issued. So counting up that time frame. And below that, typically just to kind of help with that average, in case there's fluctuations, this shows the number of applications received on a month-by-month basis, broken down by application type.
Why was that real estate inspector, why was that turnaround time so high? And
that was one application. Because that's such a low volume, there was one application that took that many days to process, because there was back and forth between the applicant and TREIC licensing three to four times on this particular application. So that's kind of, when you're dealing with small volumes, all it takes is one application. It is the average. To make that the average, yeah. Yeah, I kind of, that one jumped out at me too when I prepared the report, but it's representative of exactly one application that was completed during that time frame.
And I have a feeling that the next couple months are going to be kind of ugly.
They'll likely increase, as Executive Director Buckholz mentioned, a lot of that automation is not, it's paused for the time being to allow us to kind of troubleshoot and work on some issues and not impact the performance on the rest of the system. So it does require 1, 2, 3 touches of each application just to move it along in the process. So yeah, we're bracing for that to show up in the reports, which it hasn't yet. Right now we're kind of, as was mentioned earlier, trying to chip away one application at a time, one email at a time, and get to a more stable spot.
Anything else for Denise? Okay, let's move on. Discussion and possible action regarding 535-214, education and experience requirements for a license. Brittany?
Yes, so there were some proposed changes to this rule. Under 2H, the Texas practicum, we added, or not we, me, you guys suggested language added to an applicant must complete all required qualifying inspection coursework before beginning the Texas practicum. So just as a refresher, you have 3 options. You can recommend the proposed changes to the full commission as presented. You can modify before recommending, or you can go ahead and send it back to the subcommittee for further review and revision.
And this is one we didn't have any public comments on. So it's already been formally proposed by the commission. That was done at the November meeting. So up to you what you do next, but it could be adopted by the commission at the February meeting if you so choose.
I think we've already discussed this one as much as we can. I think we recommend they adopt it.
So we typically do that with a motion second, and then a vote.
Motion, anybody?
I motion that we submit this to the committee for approval or
adoption.
recommend?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been moved. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Perfect.
And I will mention one thing before we move on. Because of some of the realm portal issues that you have heard about, our recommendation is probably going to be to the commission to push out the effective date of this change just to make sure we're over some of the issues before we start changing requirements again. So not too far, but just FYI. It'll be
Later this year kind of thing.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, discussion and possible action regarding draft changes to the SOP.
Okay, so you have quite a lengthy packet of revisions here. So the committee had met over the last year and went through each section at each meeting and made recommended changes to the standards of practice. These are highlighted in your packet. Most of it is in blue text. And then there's some red strike lines that has to do with cleaning up the report as far as renumbering. Most of these comments and changes have to do with items that came from the complaint department, and then also to bring more in line with current electrical codes, for example. So I can go through each one and highlight the changes. Then we can go through and see if there's any questions on each item or address it one at a time. But start with you, I'll just go through and then.
Yeah, I think just go through the changes.
Okay. All right. So start.
Should we discuss them as we come to them?
That might make the most sense.
We can definitely do that, however you want to do that. Okay, so the first one coming up on page 23 of 62 has to do with general requirements, and we added a fourth comment in here saying the general requirements, the inspector shall, number 4, maintain each completed inspection report in a format that is readily available to the commission for at least 4 years from the date of inspection. And this came basically from Tony making some comments on reports being available for review by his department from complaints that were filed on inspectors.
And I don't think we need to really, like, this one's
Right. Pretty
it just
straightforward.
needed to- I
My
think
question
it
is,
needed to be in the SOP for a while.
Yeah. Where's the 4 years coming from?
Our statute of limitations.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations, correct.
Okay, is that specific for TREIC? Because
Yes.
other licenses, it's, maintain it for 1 year, 2 years. One license, I can chuck it the minute I finish. Yeah, it's.
Sure. Yeah, it's on our statute of limitations says that we can't investigate complaints that are over 4 years.
Okay.
So when we investigate a complaint, there's another rule that says if we ask the respondent, license holder, whoever it may be, inspector, broker, sales agent, for any type of documentation, they have to produce it. So in essence, for an inspector, they have to keep, records of their inspection reports for 4 years. And so this just clarifies that requirement.
So the client has 4 years to file a complaint with TREIC, and they used to be 2.
No.
Oh,
You're thinking of civil action and.
thank you.
Okay, the next section is on your agenda, page 28 of 62, under the roof covering materials. The first one, we added text that says the inspector shall inspect the roof covering materials by walking the surface of the roof. This is a change from saying the inspect the roof covering materials from the surface of the roof. The thought behind this is we're trying to emphasize that inspector in every single shall make an attempt to walk the roof to the best of his or her ability. By inspecting from the surface of the roof, what inspectors were doing was using other means that was not giving a full inspection of the roof, such as using drones, which came up, for example. They said, well, I can inspect it from the surface of the roof by using a drone to fly over, and they're not really doing a full inspection of the roof. So the intent is to walk the roof whenever possible, when it's safe to do so, which that part has not changed.
Yeah, that we have to get that specific, but.
Yeah.
Yes, and this came again from a complaint that was filed about inspecting a roof surface that did not do a complete inspection because they relied 100% on the drone.
And Randy, you may have said this already, but the reason for the highlighted text is just to clarify. The committee has seen a lot of this language already. The highlighted text is the changes from our last SOP subcommittee meeting after the October.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, and then again, there it says there, the next at the bottom of the page, the inspector is not required to inspect the roof by walking the surface if the inspector's judgment it's unsafe to do so. So that just clarifies that. Okay.
And departure provisions are still in place.
Correct. That hasn't changed.
None of that's changed.
Okay. Then to the next which looks like page 30 of 62, exterior walls. Okay, this is in addition, the report as the inspector shall report as deficient. Number B1, the absence of performing emergency escape and rescue openings in all sleeping rooms. 2, the presence of doors and emergency escape and rescue openings that require a key or special knowledge or effort.
So we're adding those
Well,
two, or we're adding 2, right?
We're adding two. Yes. So the thought of this is that currently the IRC requires that an emergency rescue door, an egress door, cannot be a double cylinder deadbolt. It has to be single cylinder. But what was interpreted in the standards of practice before is like, well, if it's a double cylinder deadbolt and there was a key present, then it was okay. But we're saying that is not okay. We're specifically stating in here that it doesn't matter if it is a double cylinder deadbolt with the key, that still does not fly because the key can be taken out and put somewhere and you can't find it. So we're basically saying it is illegal to have the double cylinder deadbolt.
Yeah, key deadbolts never been on.
Yeah, the old ones had a double cylinder, but yeah, so we're clarifying that.
They've never been.
Yeah, so that's addressed. And then, of course, renumbering cleanup on the rest of that page. Okay.
And that also applies to all doors, not just the primary. Right, the primary.
Right, it gets rid of the workaround, well, we have one that is not a double key cylinder, a double cylinder deadbolt. So now it makes all egress doors so that there's not that splitting of hairs.
Okay, moving on, the next change is page 33 of 62 under electrical systems, under service entrance and panels, 1F. So we clean this up to say the electrical cabinets and panel boards that are not accessible or do not have a minimum unobstructed workspace of 36 inches of clearance in front, 30 inches in width, and 70 inches in height. So this is adding the total workspace of the width, the front, and the height of the electrical space. Okay? And that does match the IRC and NEC workspace.
For all those gas meters that they put right underneath.
Yeah, or put something right up against it. You can't open the panel door.
Yeah, the freezers and the garage shelves and.
Home edition.
Yes, okay. Moving to page 34 of 62, section B, branch circuits. The inspector shall report as deficient. We added to clean this up because of the change in the NEC, is that we're now saying that being specific that all 125 and 250 volt receptacles in the kitchen are now required to be GFCI protected. Used to be the kitchen countertops only. Now it's every receptacle in the kitchen. Okay. Same thing in section 8, the 125 and 250 volt laundry area receptacles, everything in the utility room. Okay.
Real quick,
yes.
We're seeing, it's looking like 26 NEC is going to change a lot of that again.
Well, they always, I mean, every cycle it's.
My point is, we're sitting here trying to keep up, electrical in particular, with the NEC that continuously changes. Is there a balance that we can hit so we're not doing this every 3 years?
Well, I think we always lag behind the NEC. I think, now we just need to kind of keep up with it and not wait, till the cycle's already through and over before we start looking at making these changes and start tackling this right at the beginning.
And I think we're gonna have other areas that are gonna need changes too. It's just electrical is always bigger changes.
But we do, yep.
In the SOP.
But we do stress anything that has to do with safety first. If it's really a safety item, then we're going to tackle it. If it's something else that doesn't have to do with safety, then we probably won't even address it.
Yeah.
So in this case, right, all we did is we just moved all the receptacles to say kitchen instead of singling out the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And then we added the service receptacle in the attic.
Yeah, because it was dishwasher, then they added the disposer. Now they said, okay, just everything in the kitchen. So you don't need to specifically say disposer and dishwasher because it was kitchen countertops plus disposer and dishwasher. Now it's everything in the kitchen.
But in 26, they're supposed to be dropping ovens. But then they're also going to add outlets in the garage. So now your water heater that's direct connected is going to have GFI.
Yeah, but right now,
I think
water
we make
heaters.
that change when it
Yeah,
comes.
we'll see what they do.
That's kind of what,
Yeah.
the 26 NEC should be
I mean, it's fluid and we'll adjust.
should be hitting the streets later this year. Do we slow roll this a little bit in anticipation of that?
I'm gonna say no, because we still would have to wait for the municipalities to catch up. And that's they slow roll on the adoption. So I would say I don't want to be ahead of the jurisdictions having authority.
Well, you are going to be that, no matter what.
Well, and I think these changes to align more with what we need to be reporting anyway. And then we can, I mean, this is always a fluid document, so if it's something drastic, we can always revisit it.
Yeah.
Everyone I know is already reporting this anyways. I mean,
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Should be. Yeah.
This is nothing, I mean, shouldn't be anything new
Yeah.
to the inspector community.
The other part of my question though is we hit electrical really, really hard. But, you know, look at the changes that are happening in HVAC right now with the new refrigerants.
Mhm.
Are we addressing those?
Well, we never adjust refrigerants.
But your HVAC, right? Yeah, like your leak
Like-
sensors? How many?
Inspectors are testing refrigerant?
No, but,
No.
no, I'm talking the leak detectors that the new refrigerants have to have installed in the system. That shuts down the system if it detects a refrigerant leak.
Guess I'm not following the question.
But
I mean, as it
are we-
pertains to SOPs here for.
Yeah, are we
inspectors.
saying, hey, we got to report on a missing leak detector?
That's a system-specific requirement. How would we know it's supposed to be there?
If it's got one of those two refrigerants, it's supposed to be there.
Well,
Are we,
you
so
have-
then are we inspecting to see what kind of refrigerant the equipment is using to then verify whether or not? I feel like
I'm using that
that's
as
a
an
Yeah,
different
that's
rabbit
just a-
hole.
Or is that an example of inspecting beyond the SOP with competency?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know, we're
And that
going
that
super
shouldn't
in depth on
necessarily-
electrical and then we kind of skim on HVAC.
To your HVAC comment, that shouldn't,
Yeah.
I wouldn't list that as a deficiency. If you'd like to make that as an informational comment to your client, then you're going beyond the SOP and good. But, I mean, at what point do we draw the line on what systems and components and capacity?
Yes.
And that's exactly what I'm saying here
Where's
on
that dotted
electrical
line?
is, at what point do we draw the line and say, you know, we're going too into the weeds on this?
Well, but I mean, right now, we're talking about actual safety and shock hazards for occupants and personnel, so.
Yeah,
Are those shutoffs because of the flammability? So it's a safety thing or
Yep.
is it a ozone?
No, it's a boom issue.
Why don't we finish going through electrical and then we can
Yeah.
go back to.
About to say that, thank you. Okay, and then, of course, then on the next page at the top, we added about the attic receptacles within 25 feet of the equipment also being GFCI protected.
Is it only within 25 feet of?
Well, because you have a receptacle within 25 feet of the equipment. So if there's another attic receptacle somewhere, say, well, that didn't have to be only a service receptacle for the attic equipment.
I thought it was all attic receptacles except for the one actually powering the equipment. And to be GFI protected. Attics are a GFI space.
Well,
Well, we'll have to look.
not that they're, well, I guess we're also saying, well, I think if I remember, weren't we talking about that also, but the fact that we're trying to do a 2-in-1 here, that had to be a receptacle within 25 feet of the equipment and it has to be GFCI protected. That's the intent.
That's my recollection.
That's the intent of it here.
And
So if it doesn't read that way,
It doesn't.
okay.
And you're not supposed to be having plug disconnects on equipment anyways, so,
No, this
No,
would be
this is service.
receptacle that's required.
Service.
and that's it.
So we're
That's
saying
it.
it has to be a receptacle within 25 feet and it has to be GFCI protected.
Yeah, but if there's another one 50 feet away in the attic for whatever, it still has to be GFI.
If you can get to it.
That's what I'm laughing. Good
Yeah,
luck.
yeah. So that's why we're showing what's required. I was like, you can note, unable to safely approach and test if GFCI all day long. But this is,
So,
we need to reword that a little bit.
so I hear what you're saying, Mike. You're saying we should just leave it at attic space receptacle.
well, actually, it doesn't say GFCI on it. It just says attic space receptacle within 25 feet. That's all it says. I misspoke when I said, hold on.
It says
Go
the
back.
absent of ground fault.
Oh, yes, you're right. It's in that section I.
All attic space
Correct.
receptacles within 25 feet of equipment.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna revisit the electrical part.
On that, saying that,
The attic receptacles, yes.
Are you saying all attic receptacles within 25 feet of equipment or these specifically?
specifically the service receptacle.
Language change to me.
Related to the service person being able to plug in and use the receptacle, and it has to be GFI.
Or just say the attic space service receptacle. We can insert.
Take out the 25 feet.
Well, I think we take this back to subcommittee and rework
On
this.
the one, okay,
Are all of them in the attic?
That's just a clarification.
Service.
okay,
Attic is just like crawl space, basement, attic. they're all-
correct.
So we know that's going back. Let's you keep going, Randy.
Yes, let's see, just so everyone can follow. Next one then is on page 36 of 62 at the top. This just clarifies the deficiency in the 250 volt, basically the dryer receptacle is to call out if there's a presence of a 3-prong instead of a 4-prong, because now, we require the ground and the neutral to be separated. Okay, shouldn't be any question on that.
On this, so all 250 volt receptacles, not just the dryer.
In the laundry room, let's see, deficient 250 volt receptacle determining the presence of, if there's a 250 volt receptacle, you're required to see if there's power, and then if it's a 3-prong receptacle.
For all 250.
For all 250 volt
Okay.
receptacles, that is correct.
Because you keep referring to the dryer receptacle.
Well, no, because you don't even know, because it may be hardwired.
Just the dryer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just, putting that in there, now you're gonna have.
So then you use a departure,
Okay,
because we're also not pulling dryers.
Yeah,
If
but at
they're
least
present.
half the time, those are above the level of the dryer, so you can see.
yeah, you may be able to get to it. But it's one of those things too, if you can't see it, is it really there? So like an oven, if it's a built-in oven, it's gonna be hardwired anyway, if that's what you're referring to. But if it's a range, I pull out ranges. Slide out, but anyway, okay. All right, so moving on, the next page, on page, again, 36 of 62 at the bottom. We talked about the carbon monoxide detectors. We all know where they're required, but it's also required, let's say you have a fireplace in a bedroom, then you must have a carbon monoxide detector. So if you have a fuel-fired appliance in your bedroom, then that bedroom inside must have a carbon monoxide detector. Okay. All right.
Thank you for adding the next one.
37 of 62, the lack of a permanently installed heat source under heating equipment. Okay. Yeah, we're surprised at that.
Yeah.
Okay, the next page was just clean up gas leaks instead of in the heating equipment. Gas leaks at the heating equipment, not in the heating equipment, not associated with the gas distribution system. So that's basically talking about your flex connector.
Past the shut off.
Correct. Anything downstream of that, so past the hard pipe, basically. All right.
Really, with the gas leaks, I don't care where it gets reported, just as long as it gets reported. And I hope enforcement looks at it the same way.
Yeah, put it in both.
Yeah, put it in both, put it in multiple sections, just put something.
Yeah.
All right, next, page 40 of 62 at the top. This is under the duct systems. This was just adding another line. This came from specifically older houses where you will open up, say, a return air chase, and you will see plugs, switches, and electrical cables running through a duct system, which is a fire hazard. So you must note a deficiency if you have present visible exposed conductors.
Shouldn't be
in
anything
equipment.
there.
Correct. But these old houses, you know, when you're going back to 70s houses, 60s, or whatever, yeah, you go in there, there's just wires everywhere, switches.
It's a nice, easy way to run it from one level to the other.
It's just a clear chase. Let's just use this. It's wide open.
Yep.
Anyway, okay. And again, because of a fire hazard. Okay. All right. The big one we've gone back and forth on. This is probably getting the most discussion on page 41 of 62. So what all this is, and we've talked about this as to why in the standards of practice, the exhaust hood, the bathroom fans and the dryer was not under the ventilation section in the report. It was always in other parts. The vent hood being under appliances, the dryer being under all other, instead of being under the ventilation section, the HVAC. So it was proposed to take all of that has to do with ventilation that's installed by the mechanical contractor and place it into the HVAC section. Since it all has to do with mechanical.
No, I've gotten some phone calls on this. Saying, one, it's a pain in the neck to change all our reporting systems around. Okay, I don't care. But the bigger complaint is, one, why the consumer sees a vent hood as an appliance, they see a dryer as an appliance, they see bathroom fans. Every trade argues that it's somebody else's responsibility. The electrician says it's the HVAC says it's the electrician, and so on.
So I would argue that during construction, and you can back me or not, during construction, the mechanical contractor installs all of these exhaust systems.
The ductwork, yes.
And if we're going to put or keep ventilation in section, in the heating and air conditioning section, then exhaust is that's the appropriate place for exhaust systems. So we're not talking about the appliance that attaches to the exhaust system. We're not talking about the clothes dryer. We're not talking about
We are talking about the vent hood and the bath fan now.
Right, which is installed by the mechanical contractor. The exhaust fans and the ductwork is all installed by the HVAC contractor.
And it's also
the exhaust pipe and the terminations are all installed by the AC contractor.
Right.
As well as the dryer.
And
now.
The dryer too, that's misleading for consumers.
Yeah, we don't
because
inspect
You're
dryers.
not allowed to inspect a dryer.
Just the van.
So we inspect
that could
the
be
dryer
misleading.
vent.
That
I
it's in my
said
dryer.
dryer, yes, but the dryer vent, yes.
And it all, exhaust systems, right? Range hood, mechanical, and dryer all play a part in how that HVAC system is designed for the structure, because I've been to some forensic inspections where those range hoods that are pulling 400 and 500 CFM out of that house really mess it up.
Right, because then they don't have makeup here.
Yeah.
So, don't get me wrong, it can go in either section as far as I'm passing on concerns and phone calls that I have gotten on this for discussion.
And I've always wondered why it was in the sections it was instead of under HVAC, because it's because what does it say now under the report form?
Is appliances. And
but it says.
It makes more sense to the consumer being in appliances. I think that's how it wound up there.
Yeah, because
that's absolutely correct. And in the interest of everybody's time, and I'll just bring this up quickly and I'll shut up. My letter is in meeting materials as far as my concern on this is understanding by the consumer, for one, because the consumer's not going to look in the inspection. The common nomenclature and understanding for HVAC is can I air condition my house? That's where the consumer is coming from as far as understanding an inspection report. And so it's not going to be in their frame of mind to say, oh, I need to look at something about my dryer vent. Oh, where's my dryer vent? Oh, it's in the HVAC section. Or if the consumer finds a problem with something, or if there's a deficiency in there, they may pick up the phone and call an HVAC company looking to address the problem. And the HVAC company is going to say, we don't even do this. Why are you calling us? So I just think that there's, from the reporting standpoint, it doesn't change at all. The SOP stayed pretty much exactly the same. So from the inspector, what we're calling out remains the same. Fine, that's great. But I think on the people who receive the inspection report, high probability of generating confusion and misunderstanding. And then down the line, to your point a minute ago of the domino effect of, okay, now we have to 7-7 and we need to push that out into the field as well, which again, it's the inspector's responsibility to keep up with the new report form. But what problem does this fix? What does this improve for the consumer? What problem exists that pushes this to happen in the first place, other than where it shows up in a code book?
Yeah, that was the only discussion, is putting in the proper location on the report. And we've had.
But I would say you also are entering confusion, because again, you've got a vent under an appliance and called it out, and I call up and say, hey, what's wrong with my dryer? Well, I didn't inspect your dryer, but it's under appliances. So again, it's confusion one way or the other. Putting it where it belongs is less confusing than having it where it doesn't belong.
Again, the standards of practice for inspecting dryers doesn't change. We've just moved it in the report.
Well, and you're not allowed to
dryer
inspect
the
the dryer.
exhaust.
What he's saying is, with it under appliances, they see dryer, they think you inspected the dryer.
Well, then you need to write a better report that informs your
So
client.
you're saying write a better report to alleviate confusion, which is what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I said that.
The consumer
Yeah.
is not going to view the range hood as being part of my heating and cooling system, because the common understanding of the consumer is that HVAC is heating and cooling my house. That's my point.
My thought is, I don't see it as going to be confusing to the consumer. The consumer, if they read the report, so back to talking about the gas thing, right? If they read the report, the importance is they've gotten the information. I'm not sure that they pay attention to the headings sections anyway. I think it's incumbent on the inspector to report and write a good report and educate the client. Doesn't really matter where it falls in the SOP or the report, so long as the information is relayed to the consumer. I don't know that the consumer has any precognition of where something should be reported.
You could also then, under that section, one, if you didn't want it there, remove in the title, heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, just strike ventilation completely, because you're not talking about any ventilation in here. You could do that, heating and air conditioning systems, strike ventilation, or you leave it in there and then you talk about, instead of saying range hood and exhaust system, we're talking about appliance and exhaust, talk about the range exhaust system, and talk about mechanical exhaust vents, leave bathroom heaters under appliances, dryer systems, dryer exhaust stays under HVAC.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I was just saying, you could, yeah, I mean.
I don't know how you kept up with all that, but yeah, you're hammering the point though, that, you know.
We're not intending to inspect the appliance, we're intending to report on the deficiency in the exhaust system itself.
But look at range hoods, first thing in there that we report deficient inoperative units.
Okay, so just.
Deficiencies in performance or mounting.
So where would you put they used a corrugated pipe in the exhaust, the range hood exhaust duct that's running through the attic instead of using a hard pipe? Where would you put that?
Well, it's still going in that same section.
Of where? Under the appliance.
It's still under range hood.
But it's not an appliance. That's our argument.
Why wouldn't it be under the
Under ventilation.
The
Why
duct
isn't it in
chases
the
the
attic
vent
systems?
system?
Because that's where it is.
Well, because the HVAC contractor installs that duct. Yeah.
I
so.
think we're gonna have, I don't
This
think
was a
we're
long
ever-
conversation, I tell you.
I don't think this committee is ever gonna be in the middle on these three exhaust systems. I think we're gonna probably be split 50-50 on where we think they go. I mean, we've employed the SOP committee to revise the SOPs, and we can talk about, I mean, we've talked about this several meetings till we're blue in the face. So I think at the end of the day, the SOP committee needs to think of these systems and where they make the most sense to the consumer. And then and y'all can revisit that while y'all revisit the attic receptacle.
The attic receptacle.
Okay.
We could look
But
at carving something out or.
But also as the
Moving.
full committee, when the SOP committee is bringing a suggestion, we also can't just keep shooting it back because then we're never going to update our SOPs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on then to
42.
Yeah, plumbing systems, page 42 of 62. This was an interesting thought process on here. Oh, did you see then the ducts at the top of that page, ducts that are not made?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right. This was discussed at length about if you're not inspecting the irrigation system, is it important enough to note that if you see that there's an irrigation system installed in the house, even though you're not inspecting it, and you notice that you still have to check for the presence of a backflow device because it's protecting the potable water supply. So we're saying, we want you to note that there's not a backflow. Hey, we noticed there's an irrigation system. Because you're not inspecting irrigation, but you're inspecting the protection of the potable water supply in the
I was
house.
going to ask.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
As long as I'm not going to be talking to the gentleman a couple of seats down, when I listed as missing under the irrigation system that I did inspect, and I didn't call it out in plumbing. You follow what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
Call it out in plumbing.
Call it out in plumbing.
Don't call it out under optional systems if you didn't inspect the
No, but
optional.
Yeah, they just put, yeah,
I
not.
am
not-
inspecting the
Yeah,
sprinkler
be
system. I'm gonna put it
redundant.
in the sprinkler system.
Yes,
It should be
yes,
fine.
whether it's
Redundant,
installed,
correct.
some type of backflow device of whether
They,
it's a PVB or.
When we
Check valve.
discussed it, we discussed that it's a safety issue.
Mhm.
So that's why I think the subcommittee thought it was important that we highlight.
Oh, I'm not questioning why it's there. What I'm saying is if I do inspect the irrigation system, and in the irrigation system, I list it as missing or not found, then I've met the requirements of the SOP to say that we're missing that. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
as long as you have it in there.
Yeah, I
As long as
understand.
somewhere in
Get it in there
That
somewhere.
makes sense.
Okay, on page 43 of 62, this was just to clean up because it was redundant. Since we have a separate section under gas distribution systems, we don't need to mention gas distribution systems under plumbing. It has its own part in the report. Okay, next page, next section. Page 45 of 62, this was just an addition for the water heater, the gas water heater, to talk about the deficiency in pan and pan materials. We tried to shorten this as little as possible. The thought process was to call out a plastic pan under a gas water heater, which is
Unless the
not,
pan.
it's fire rated
Listed.
for fire. Yes, correct.
A good-
So that's why we just said pan and pan materials. That way it covers what you just said. Unless
Good
it's
luck
a,
finding the label.
yes. Okay, and then under the hydro massage therapy, so if, of course, obviously you have to be able to have an access panel to get in, and then when you're inspecting it, just to make sure that that pump motor is electrically bonded. Because most times it's got a little bonding set screw on it. A lot of times there's nothing there. It's not bonded. So we want to call that out. All right. Again, next page 46 of 62, same comment on the gas distribution. We're moving that over. Okay, and then specific limitation for gas lines, obviously, if it's inaccessible. I don't know exactly why we specifically, that does not require an inaccessible gas supply. So why do we have that actual comment in there? You remember, obviously, if it's inaccessible, we wouldn't expect it anyway.
Maybe just as a backup reminder that, gas pipes run through the wall and we can't see them all.
It looks like it was moved from the plumbing systems.
I'm happy to have it in there.
You're happy.
I'm happy to have it in there.
Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Okay.
And it kind of protects our butts a little bit. Just
I just want to clarify, before we move on, that when the change is made to reporting that the missing the plumbing, what do we talk, so the previous section? For the irrigation, you have to report it in the plumbing section because we're changing the plumbing section. So you were asking if I don't report it there, can I report it in the other section? And I just want to clarify that the proper thing to do would be to report it in the plumbing section because that's what we're changing.
Yeah,
but I am inspecting the sprinkler system, the irrigation system, and I believe it says in there in presence of a backflow and.
Great, that's fine. If you're inspecting, it could go, if it's missing it,
I
you
just
put it.
can't tell you that it's okay not to report it in the plumbing.
Oh,
section.
no,
When
no,
the
no,
plumbing
no.
section says you have to report it.
If you're opting out of checking the sprinkler system and it's not there, you need to put it together.
Well, the plumbing section says you have to report it in the plumbing.
Oh, the other red.
And
In part because you always inspect the plumbing. The clarification was if there's an irrigation system, you also have to report it if there's an irrigation system installed.
So you have to report it 2 places.
So I have to report it twice.
I would say in both places, if it's required, the proper thing would be to report it. It doesn't mean that we're going to take discipline against you. You know, we have to look at the circumstances. But I can't say that it's optional to do one or the other because that's not what the language says.
Well, I understand you're trying to catch it.
I'm just trying to clarify it, just so there's no misunderstanding.
Right, what the intent was if you're not inspecting the irrigation system, we just say the plumbing system itself is missing a backflow protection from the irrigation system, period.
I understand.
Okay.
Do we add in the plumbing section unless reported in irrigation?
No.
No, because you'll report it if it's missing on the irrigation, if you're inspecting the irrigation. You'll report it's missing a.
Right, I'm saying, put an exception in the plumbing section that says, hey, you have to report this here unless you're inspecting the irrigation and you reported it over there.
And with the software we have now, it's one click to just put it in
But
each
it's also
section.
remembering to put it in the other section. That's the issue.
It just seems like we're duplicating work.
Yeah, we are.
I'm with you, as long as it gets in the report.
And I think the same argument can be made for GFCIs or gas leaks where we say under an appliance, under a heater to report gas leaks, and then we turn around and say report gas leaks, or GFCI where we're saying report GFCI protection under branch circuits, but then we turn around and have it again under hydromassage therapy equipment. So I don't think that there's any more duplicity in this than there is in other places.
And the same with foundations.
Yeah.
You already have duplicate requirements.
Mm-hmm. Now we can figure out how to get rid of all the duplicate requirements, but we wouldn't.
Okay, and then back to on 46 to 62, that highlighted, that was just moving it from one section to here. Okay. And then again, all these other strikes through, this is what we just talked about, striking it from the appliances, move it to HVAC, which we'll come back to and revisit. Then I think the last thing I have is on the septic systems, which will be on 51 of 62 at the bottom. The inspector shall inspect one.
Unknown caller.
Thought that was on silent, my apologies. I had it on work focus. The inspector shall inspect by opening panels or covers intended to be removed for service or inspections and visible system components.
So no more just flushing a dye pack and praying.
No.
Right.
Thank
So if
you.
it's got a cover, open it. Obviously, if it's, covered.
You don't have a shovel and you're not digging, you can't do septic inspection.
Do we need to put a, not required to, so where we've got excavate the system or its components, I would put a over 12 inches deep, because that's the, that's
Well,
the code requirement.
But I'm not digging 6 inches.
Then don't do septics.
Well, that's why we're saying that if it's got an opening pin intended to be removed, Right.
then you.
Then you remove those. We're saying if they're there, you
Remove it.
open them and you remove them and you inspect it.
And if you don't inspect it.
But we have an exception here that says the inspector is not required to excavate the system or components, but it says they have to open panels or covers intended. So how are you gonna do a traditional?
You're not.
You're not. You're not.
You're not.
You're not.
So.
You're not required to, but if you don't, then you're not.
I'm just saying there's,
We're trying to eliminate the walkover inspection.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm
You have
saying
to-
there's still a loophole here as I'm seeing it.
But this now requires you to say that you did not excavate or dig the cover up.
But the other thing I'm looking at with, saying 12 inches is that will give us a lot of, or it should eliminate some of the pushback of, well, why didn't you dig that 4-foot deep septic? We paid you.
Then they shouldn't get paid.
I should be charging for that.
Yeah.
Because if we can't do it, we'll just say, I'm sorry, I can't inspect your system. There's, we're not charging you for that. And sometimes you're gonna open it up, but it still may be those, 4-foot concrete lids that you need,
And no
a crane to lift it up, a backhoe to lift it up. Now, sometimes they'll have the little small concrete with the steel cables you can pick up. But you're gonna dig it all up just to find out that you can't open it anyway?
So the difference is now the inspector is required to inspect by opening the panels or covers.
Mm-hmm.
So if he can't do it because he needs to excavate, then he's not inspecting it.
And I'm not mad about this because we've needed tighter requirements on septic inspections as home inspectors. I mean, we've made it too easy for a home inspector to run water in the house for 30 minutes, didn't see any standing water in the yard, system satisfactory.
Yep.
Without even telling you where the tank is located because they didn't find it.
Then find it was all cracked, the tank's gone, there's roots in there, trees growing through it, all that kind of stuff.
This is a disaster when that happens and the consumer ends up with the problem.
Yeah, so I do like that they have to inspect by opening the panel or cover. And if that means digging down 18 inches to get to that lid, then that's what they're gonna have to do. And I mean, set your fee accordingly, a dig fee.
Well, yeah, and we did that, but,
Well,
I'm just
that's why I
saying-
put the visible system components,
Well,
the visible risers.
And I'm
the
gonna
green risers.
caution this, right? We have in 535227 saying that we are not required to inspect things that are concealed, hidden, or latent, right?
Mhm.
By opening panels and covers intended to be removed for service or inspection. So they should be visible and accessible with the exception of old school concrete tanks, septic systems, right? The lids are for aerobic should be visible and accessible. I don't think this is any different than us having a panel for a hydromassage therapy tub that's got the caulked shut cultured marble access panel, where then we just say, hey, we can't verify the
It's not
grouting.
readily accessible.
It's not accessible. Or any other panel that's permanently covered, concealed.
Yep.
So I don't think we should require excavation 6 inches, 12 inches, 4 feet. I don't care. If you choose to do it, you can inspect to a higher level of performance, but we're saying if it's there, you open it.
But, so here's the, it sounds like, I don't know, the area you're in is mostly aerobics. When you say old school, flip that for us.
Yeah.
Okay, we're almost, 3/4 are traditional septics, and you're digging. But we see the walkovers, I walked around and I didn't find any squishy bits in where I think the drain field is, so your system's good. Or, flushing a dye pack down the commode and, nothing appeared, great, okay. That's not an inspection. And you're not required to excavate is not going to stop those inspections at all. Because they're gonna say, well, the lids were not accessible, I'm not required to excavate, but I did, I walked the drain fields, I ran the water, you're good to go. So we're not fixing anything.
And we talked about that. If you can't open it, then write in here that you can't do the inspection. We've also discussed taking this out completely from the standards of practice, completely. Just you can't do it. Just take it out and it completely eliminates septics. That was a discussion too.
And then you have to.
Then I just do it under my not cert.
Well, yeah.
Which I prefer to do anyways.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. You have the additional training and the competency with your not cert.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what we're
the-
trying to do is get the incompetent inspectors away from septic tanks. Because they're looking at a real property with septic tank and seeing a couple $100 extra bucks in their pocket to walk around a yard and say there's no standing water. So we're trying to take that out because the way a septic system is designed without additional training, I mean, it's a tough system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an underground.
And it's expensive.
And it's, yes, and for some houses, it is the most expensive component to replace.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm just trying to say, maybe on the aerobics, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, you've got most of your accesses at the surface. Sometimes the trash tank is buried.
Okay.
So are they supposed to excavate the trash tank on an aerobic if it's buried?
Yes.
Well, okay, ideally, yes, but according to this, no. The way it's written right now.
They have to, if they can't open it and open the panels or covers and remove them for service, if they can't be removed or intend to be removed, they're not really inspecting. So I think the issue was there's some inspectors that do their inspections and they take it upon themselves to excavate. Right? There's some that carry their shovels as part of their inspections. That's just what they do. They do a good inspection because they know they're going to run into these things. And then we were talking about the other ones that they do a visual inspection. They don't never open it. They say, whatever, I couldn't open it. So now we're changing it. The way it is right now, it doesn't say that. Now we're changing it, saying, no, if you're doing an inspection, if you're saying that you're doing an inspection, that means you opened it and you inspected it. And if you're saying, because the other situation, if it's like too deep to dig, some inspectors may not want to do that. So we can't say you have to do it. If you don't want to do it because it's too far to dig,
then don't do this.
Then don't do it, and you're not required to do it. You just need to let the client know. I'm not inspecting it because, I'm not excavating.
That's what's listed right here, not required to excavate.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You've got your septic inspection. They get there, the lids are buried. They say, okay, we're gonna, use our departure statement, perfectly legal, right, for the inspector. But does the consumer realize what just happened?
Right.
And that's what my problem is, because we see this happen.
So the consumer doesn't get the system inspected, is what you're saying, because
I think what he's saying is they use the departure provision. The lids were underground, therefore they didn't dig them
And they're
up.
still charging for it.
And still saying that
And
the
still
system's
charging them for the septic inspection. What Michael's saying is that they implemented the departure provision because the lids were inaccessible.
He said it doesn't say that if you can't open it, you can't excavate, you can't inspect it.
See, but
What you're saying.
unless you think we need
I
to
know
clarify,
exactly what you're saying.
unless we need to clarify the language further. But my understanding from our conversation is that the intent was that you have to inspect it. You have to open the lids. That would be the proper inspection. But we didn't want to force everybody to do it, so that way they could depart and not inspect it.
Well,
So
it's
they're
an
not
optional
inspecting.
system.
You're saying that by departing, that means they inspected it. That's not what the language says, but maybe we could clarify it.
Do y'all want to take that back?
Yeah, because what we're trying to say is that if you're going to inspect that system and it's buried, then you better dig it out and then open
Because
it.
for the sake of time, we could talk about this for
Correct.
another hour, but
Yeah.
let's take this
All right.
to the SOP subcommittee and let them.
Okay, so, all right, so we have then
Oh,
the,
sorry.
oh,
Shannon Gatewood, do we all agree that if you're inspecting a conventional system, that you should be removing the lid, opening the lids?
yes.
Yeah.
I just want to, so, based on the way that language is, it's giving you the out. So Mike's suggestion of adding, not required to excavate when deeper than 12 inches, or whatever that language needs to be.
Right, we'll
Would be a way to
Yeah.
ensure. So I'm just making sure everybody's on the same page on.
Okay,
all
so.
think that it needs to be opened.
So where we are right now on all these drafts is that we're going to revisit the attic receptacle, the section on the HVAC, and then revisit the excavation provision on the septic.
Yeah.
So do we want to go ahead and approve everything else that we presented with the exception of those 3 items? Or do we want to do everything at once in one clean?
I think you do it all
All
at
at
one time, so that you're not releasing little bits or changes and
Okay,
segmented.
whatever's easier for everyone.
Do we need a motion to take it back to the subcommittee?
No, I think
No,
that was
no.
direction from you.
This was just draft anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also under agenda item 11, Tony, you submitted some information regarding sewer cameras.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Mike, who's not here today, but I did bring some, call him up as an expert regarding some sewer scope issues. And he gave me some feedback about it. And from talking to him, we thought it might be a good idea to raise it. And just basically the issue, if I can present it, and then Mike can, express his opinion later.
Which Mike?
Mike Morgan.
Okay.
So the issue is that when the septic cameras came about, initially it was kind of a new thing. And, there was the issue with the plumbing license where now you didn't need a plumbing license to do those type of inspections. Inspectors were able to do it. At the time, the inspector committee decided, we don't want to take on that issue right now because it's still new. And I think there wasn't enough knowledge at the time. But now it's been several years, inspectors are doing them as a matter of course, and we still don't have a set of SOPs. So I think Mike thought it was a good time to maybe address some of these issues because otherwise enforcement doesn't have, standards to enforce when something goes wrong. And we don't have something that's uniform that inspectors can rely upon. So that was the only issue.
Yeah, and I mean, we have more and more inspectors doing sewer cameras. I mean, so it's perfectly logical that we bring in an SOP because that seems like sewer cameras are one of those easy add-ons. You buy sewer camera and you can add that on pretty easily. Do we want to, when they take these other items back to the subcommittee, do we want to look at creating sewer camera SOP?
That was my suggestion, and I brought some suggestions to give us a starting point, and then we can just take it from there. And obviously, we want some expertise. So anybody who has expertise doing sewer scope inspections, they can give us, a real world experience. They've done some training. They've done, maybe hundreds of inspections. So that would be helpful. Because what we want to do is obviously, protect the consumer, make sure that the inspectors are competent. So when we set up these standards, it's something that's uniform, that's fair to the consumer, it's fair to the inspector. And it also gives enforcement the ability to enforce when an inspector does something that's, wrong.
All right. Yes, Shannon.
Shannon Gatewood again. I'm just curious, and I'm not against adding that in, but what in these talking points is not already required in the plumbing system?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're still
That's what
required to
we'll talk
report pipe material visible. Well, I just ran a camera down there, now that's visible, right? I mean, theoretically, same thing, slow drains. If I'm running the camera down, I can see a slow drain. So I'm good with adding sewer scope section to optional systems, but if we're gonna do that, what is not a reportable thing in plumbing systems already?
Or what
Is my
if,
question.
we just expand plumbing in the drain lines,
That's what
drain
it is.
lines viewed from, and maybe add
Well,
like
that's because,
that under
yeah,
drain
that's
lines.
because it's visible, what's visible. And that using the camera, it's using a specialized equipment.
Specialized equipment.
So that's the difference. You're at a different level, but now it's kind of being sort of a normal thing.
So I have a
Like
question.
an optional, almost like an optional system. So I think those questions are questions that are probably better addressed in the subcommittee.
Yeah, just from a outside perspective, you have to be have to have a license to be a plumber. Why are real estate inspectors buying specialized equipment and looking at sewers?
Because
Because the plumbing board changed the rule, so we could.
Yeah, I mean, you could just as well get a set of gauges and check the refrigerant on an air conditioner.
Bingo.
You can do that too.
Don't give some
There's
inspectors
inspection
an idea.
companies out there.
But no, the plumbing
Yeah.
board looked at no requirements and said it was acceptable for home inspectors to
Yeah,
do.
that was.
And everybody
So you
went
have
out and
to have
bought a
a
camera.
license, you have to have a license to install septic systems, that's a separate license. You have to have a license to do irrigation system, that's a separate license, right?
Right?
Yeah, but you don't have to have a separate license to inspect irrigation
Yes.
systems.
Yeah.
The reason
There's
we,
not a
yeah,
septic
the
inspection
reason,
license.
yeah, there's not a inspector, like there's not a state of Texas in irrigation system inspector, septic inspector. So that's where we're able to do these inspections.
Just like the electrical.
And that's what I say, because the plumbing board changed the rule, said
Yeah.
that we can't.
Plumbing board is the one that said we could do the.
Yeah, because Ken Paxton's office came back and said we could. But be that as it may,
We still need to be competent in the ability to do a sewer camera.
I think some guardrails on that subject would be a good idea.
Yeah, there's.
I'm not against that.
There's a, and we recognize sometimes that competency levels are different for, someone who's a fully licensed electrician, fully licensed plumber, but sometimes if you don't do things right, the consumer gets harmed. So that's why I think it's good to set some standards.
So y'all might as well visit that in SOP while we're doing all of this. I mean, if we're gonna do it, now's the time to do it. See what y'all come back with.
Okay.
All right, anything else on changes to the SOP?
Yeah, we've got the general, got the comments.
And then the next comment, the next,
We've already
Oh,
talked
yeah,
to Greg about
Yeah,
his.
the two comments, yeah, we've already kind of talked about all that. I don't think
Yep.
we need to revisit that once again. I think they both basically say the same thing and we've spent quite a bit of time on that. So let's go ahead and move on to discussion and possible action regarding the property inspection report form, including the preamble. Abby, you got that?
Yeah, so the SOP subcommittee discussed this at their last meeting as well, and really the only changes they had were mirroring the changes in the SOPs. So I think for our purposes today, unless there's additional changes you all want to discuss, we just sort of pause on this until that discussion is completed.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Request for any future agenda items?
So when we come back next time, we'll have SOPs up again. We'll have the
Yeah.
inspection report form up again,
perfect.
potentially, we'll see. And then anything else.
Anybody else have anything else? Okay, discussion over possible meeting dates. The next one we have scheduled is April 20th.
All right, let's see. That was
April 20th.
Yeah, Monday, April 20th.
Any opposition to doing it the next day on Tuesday?
I'm kind of liking the Tuesday a little
I
bit
don't-
better.
Oh,
I know
don't
it
like
screws
the
with you
Tuesday.
driving up here,
Yes,
but
it really, yeah, I like coming, yeah.
It steals a half a workday for those of us traveling in, doing it on Tuesday, unless you want to drive into Austin at 10 o'clock at night.
yeah, I drive in the morning. I left
Yeah, I'm-
6:45 this morning. I left the house to get here.
I'm less than 2 hours away, so it's easy.
I'm good for the 20th.
Yeah, I'm 3 hours.
Yeah, I'm 3+ hours, but I'm 3 to 4 depending on.
Yeah, depending on Texas.
Depending on Texas.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's completely from a revenue generating standpoint. Mondays are great.
I agree with Greg. I come in on a Sunday, I'm already losing Monday, pretty much the whole day from, here and then driving home. If we did it on Tuesday, I would lose Monday afternoon and all day Tuesday.
Yeah, and that's fine. So Monday is, I'm not complaining about Monday.
Yeah, I may be traveling in the morning, so I'll just let you know if I traveling back on Monday.
And then we have.
So I might not be here.
And then we have July 20th.
I'm good with July 20th.
And when you get out that far, you can tell me when you're here.
And then October 19th.
That's
So the
July
next
20.
three. Yeah, it's
Too far out.
the third Monday of the next 3 months.
Okay, July, come on. And
so the 20th.
October.
October 19th.
19th, okay.
April 20th.
Cool. I think that's far enough. And then we'll set subcommittees separately.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have staff reach out to schedule the SOP one. Yeah.
All right, well, that is all we have for this meeting. Anything else before we adjourn?
I
think you're good.
Okay.
Do we need a
Happy New
motion
Year.
to
All that
adjourn?
good stuff.
What was that?
I said Happy New Year and all
Oh,
that,
yes,
all that good stuff.
Sorry it was long, but we always know the January meeting is going to be long. And then we threw the SOPs into the January meeting, so.
We're still at 2 hours.
I thought it was amazing
All right.
timing.
I'm gonna end the meeting.